Welcome back to Geek Channel 8. I'm Eric.
And I'm Rosie.
That was the shark meter because we're entering shark infested waters.
In
We're
Australia this time.
in Australia this time with the Reef from 2010.
That's right.
Speaking of sharks, this week I watched a film that I thought was a shark movie because it had this girl posing on the beach with a surfboard with a big bite out of it, as that was like the cover art. It's called Soul Surfer.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yep.
Yeah, I bet you have, because it's a true story of Bethany Hamilton, who was a world-class surfing hopeful anyway. She
Hmm.
was a competitive surfer. She was attacked by a shark and it bit off her arm, and she survived and went on to become a world champion surfer. But the movie, first of all, wasn't really a shark movie. The shark attack happens literally for like 1 second. Blink and you miss it, which I'm sure is realistic when it comes to
Hmm.
sharks, but that's not what I wanted. And
It's
then,
not the American way. It's got to be gory, messy, scary, jump scary,
yeah.
but
And
it
the
was a
reason it,
Christian movie. So,
well, there you go.
yep.
So the soul should have been a tip off to me, but I started watching this thing, and before the shark attack even happened, the writing was on the wall. It seemed to have all the usual suspects like Carrie Underwood and Kevin Sorbo. Sorbo, if he's in a film, it's either catering to the lower common denominator science fiction fan, post Hercules, the legendary journeys, or it's a Christian film. Like that's the two instances where you get Sorbo cast in something. Yes, it turned out to be Christian propaganda, you
Yep.
know? And I was like, what the hell? I can't believe I just wasted time watching this for like a 1 second shark attack and then like sat through all the preachiness. Like,
Suddenly I'm back in youth group again.
not me, but yeah.
It would definitely take me there. To the church of my childhood's credit, I was in youth group with some pretty cool people. So if any of y'all are listening, what's up? And hey, cheesy. We kind of shelved Your Honor because the boys came out. So we had to watch the boys. We just finished watching their fourth season. And now we have to wait until 2025 to watch season 5, which will be the final season for the boys. But I gotta say, man, it went by so fast because it was so good.
This is
And
why I'm not watching The Boys, because I don't want to wait between seasons. I'm going to wait until the final season is over with, and then I'll watch
mhm,
them all in a row.
yeah,
People, stop watching stuff when it comes out. This is the age of streaming. You don't need to do that. Pick one of the million good shows out
yeah.
there that are already done and watch the whole show. And by the
Well,
time you're done watching that, the show that you want to see that's out right now will be done and you can watch that.
well, I'm sorry to say, but I'm gonna be that guy and watch I'm going to watch The Boys when it comes out. I'm gonna watch
House of
House
the
of the
Dragon.
Dragon when it comes out, and it did, and we're working our way through that now.
I don't know.
Um,
Without the Mother of Dragons chick.
oh, this era predates it by 150 years, so there's no way she would be there unless she was like immortal.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah, I mean,
knowing that
but
there's not going to be an equivalent to her in it, I'm like, there's
it's
half
really
the reason to
good.
watch Game of Thrones.
You should give it a shot. It's really good. It's
I
really
don't
good. If
know.
you
I
like
grew
Game
up,
of Thrones, then you would like House of the
I like
Dragon.
dragons. I like
Yeah.
dragons.
And there are
Anyway,
some badass dragons in that show.
well, okay. We'll talk about dragons another time. Today we're talking about sharks.
Sharks.
This movie came out in 2010, which is now kind of fading into the past a bit. What can you tell us about the year 2010?
There were a lot of interesting things that happened in 2010, some fairly major events. This was the year the first iPad was released. The tallest building in the world, which is a building in Dubai, opened up in 2010. It was called the Burj Khalifa, 2,722 feet tall. There was a 7.0 magnitude earthquake in Haiti that claimed 160,000 lives. Justin Bieber reached 1 million followers on Twitter, and that was also the year he released the song Baby. Casey Neistat uploaded the first ever YouTube video. WikiLeaks published the first US diplomatic cable leak provided by Chelsea Manning. Final episode of Lost aired. God, everybody talked about that on MySpace back in the day. You remember that?
Yeah,
Um,
my girlfriend didn't like I was watching the first few episodes and I was getting hooked on it and she didn't like it because it was too scary or something. So we stopped watching it. And then I did my usual thing of like, I will wait until this is completely done and then watch the whole thing. My fear was that as it was going on year after year, I'm like, they're never going to solve this plane crash and they're going to like get into all kinds of stupid stuff and it's like never going to be resolved. And sure enough, I hear that the last season of Lost was terrible. And so I'm like, I don't want to watch 4 seasons to get to a terrible ending, you know? So then, not many years after that, I watched Game of Thrones only to have that same experience. So stop making good shows that suck at the end. If it's gonna suck, end it. End it while
yeah,
it's on a high note. End it like Buffy or Breaking
s-
Bad.
yeah,
Those are shows that like knew when to go out, you know?
yeah, yeah. Breaking Bad did a really good job at that. So back to 2010.
Sorry.
Um, this was also the year that Lady Gaga wore the meat dress to the MTV Music Awards.
Meat
Um,
dress.
the meat dress. Yes, the famous meat dress. Singapore opened the world's first Summer Youth Olympic Games. Californian judge Vaughn Walker overturned the same sex marriage ban. British boy band One Direction was formed during X Factor UK. Inception, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, premiered in London. Instagram was launched. All 33 miners trapped after a mining accident in Chile were rescued after being stuck underground for 69 days. That was huge. Taylor Swift's third studio album, Speak Now, was released. It won Billboard's 2011 Album of the Year. Love me some Tay. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 was released worldwide. Adele released Rolling in the Deep. Everybody knows that song. If you don't, I don't know where you've been. And SpaceX became the first private company to launch orbit and recover a spacecraft. So I'll just leave it at that. 2010 was a fun year for pop culture.
Well, we're gonna go into the deep and hopefully not be wearing a meat dress because
That would be a bad idea.
that would be a bad idea. This movie that we're talking about today is based on true events that happened during the 1980s off the coast of Townsville in northern Queensland, Australia. It stars Damian Walsh Howling as Luke, Zoe Naylor as Kate, Adrian Pickering as Susie. I think it's pronounced Guyton Grantley as Matt, Kieran Darcy Smith as Warren, and Mark Simpson as Shane. If you've never heard of any of these people, don't worry. None of us have either. So, the film is based on the true story of Ray Boundy's account of events that happened to him and two other people in 1983. Let's just say the movie is fairly close, except for it's got 5 people instead of 3. The film began a 5-week shoot on October 12th, 2009 in Harvey Bay and Bowen Bay of Australia. And they did something unusual in making the film, which is that they had a live stream going of the filming of the movie. Probably the first time that's been done for any kind of major motion picture. The chief executive of Tourism Tropical North Queensland, Rob Gason, was very concerned that the film was advertised as being based on a true story because he thought it could hurt the tourism industry We'll talk more about this when we get to Jaws. But Colonel Mackenzie, the CEO of the Association of Marine Park Operators, said that earlier shark films had hurt the tourism industry. So they had reason to believe that that would be the case. The Reef premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in May of 2010, and then later showed in South Korea at the Busan Film Festival and Stiges Film Festival in Spain. It finally premiered in late 2010 in Australia at film festivals in Brisbane and Canberra, and it got its wide release in March of 2011.
If you go to look up the film, guys, it will say 2010, but if you look it up on Prime, it says 2011, and it's actually free if you have Amazon Prime right now. But yeah, I was a little confused. I had to check, double check, and recheck to make sure I was about to watch the right movie when I went to watch this film.
Yeah, so that we didn't end up with another Carrie incident.
Right, exactly. I don't want to do that again.
A wide release in Australia is not a wide release in the US, right?
Yeah.
The According to the director, quote, "The biggest release we can hope for is 30 screens, which is what you get for Australian films unless you make something like Australia," unquote. So Australia referring to the film Australia.
Okay.
Some places, like in the UK, it went straight to video in 2011. Shark films generally don't get good reviews, but this is the exception. It got an approval rating of 80% on Rotten Tomatoes of critic reviews, and the consensus stated, quote, "A gripping example of less is more horror. The Reef is the rare shark attack movie that isn't content to merely tread water," unquote. I'll say this has got to be like the most Australian film I've seen since Fury Road. When you think of shark attacks, you think of Australia, or at least I do.
When I think of shark attacks, I think of Jaws. 'Cause because it came out when I was little, and so I just have always made that association, and I always feel like any shark movie I watch after that, it just wants to be Jaws. So,
It's true. Jaws has never been topped, but this film is good in its own right, I think.
I think so too. I didn't know what to expect going into this film because, to be honest with you, I don't go out of my way to watch shark films. I don't know why. Like, I can sit through The Boys and get jump scared to death and watch all kinds of gore, but I never consciously decide to watch a shark film. Or I don't even watch Shark Week.
Opens, and there's some beautiful underwater photography in this.
Yes.
Like, that is something that everything is above the water,
Mm-hmm.
and you never see like down below the water. And this one does not make that mistake. So it opens with the character is named Luke. He has one of the greatest jobs in the world, which is delivering boats to people. And he delivers these boats by sailing them there, right? So he invites his friend Matt and Matt's girlfriend Susie to join him, along with Matt's sister Kate and Warren, another guy who's into sailing. To get to Indonesia, they have to sail through the coral reefs. And the first day, everything's fine. You know, they're out having fun on the ocean. The second day, they hit a reef and capsize, and like the whole keel is gone. So it's an upside down boat and it's slowly sinking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me back up a bit. Before they even got on the water, when they're like preparing to depart, someone says, "You know, you got a greater chance of dying of a bee sting than dying of a shark attack."
Right. Thank you for the foreshadowing.
This is true. Sharks are not as big an enemy of mankind as mankind is an enemy of sharks. I think humans kill something like 1 million sharks a year, and sharks kill like one person a year.
Not that year. Not in this movie.
On average. That being said, I don't care. I don't want to be that one person, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
so like I'll always remember I was out in the yard one time and my dad was gardening and my mom was there. We had a stone wall and he lifted up a stone from the wall and underneath was the snake. I don't think it was like a particularly venomous snake. It was probably like a garter snake or something. I don't know. But, we're looking at it and my mom's like, "Oh, that's just a snake, a harmless snake. It's just part of the circle of life or something like that."
Circle of life. Yeah.
And so then, and my dad's like, "Yeah, but I don't want to be part of that circle," and
Right.
like just then the snake launched itself into the air and like 2 feet in the air towards him, and he took a step back, and it didn't bite him, but it landed on the ground and slithered away. And I've never seen a snake like propel itself through the air like that.
Oh
And
my
so I was
gosh.
like, okay. And that's the way that I feel about sharks. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, your chance of getting eaten by a shark is like really, really slim, like 1,000,000 to 1 or something. But it's not zero.
Right. Yeah. It's not zero. I actually had the opportunity to go snorkeling in Cancun and see whale sharks, which I did get to see the whale sharks, but Rob and I have no business snorkeling. None. We're in Mexico. It's like our first or second trip. And whenever we first get into Mexico, we always stop at this restaurant called El Poblano, have a beer, bite to eat, whatever. We've been traveling all day. This was one of those times. So we stop in, and you really got to be careful. We learned the hard way this time. You really got to be careful who you book your tours with when you go to Cancun, because some of these places will have a little tourist kiosk set up inside of a restaurant. I mean, people will set up business and do business inside of a restaurant, somebody else's business, all the time in Mexico. So there's a kiosk already set up. And this guy, is talking to us and, oh, yeah, you want to go snorkeling and see the whale sharks? Yeah, that sounds really cool. Well, little did we know it was like basically a fourth party excursion, a fourth party excursion. Like when we met up with them, they took us to one place, we had to wait. And then they took us to another place and we had to wait. And then they took us to the boat and we show up to the boat and everybody in there is wearing wetsuits but us.
Good. You didn't look like seals.
Right. We didn't look like seals. Correct. So we show up there, not, and here's, Rob and I, just Midwestern as fuck, showing up for the snorkeling adventure. And we got people there from California, from Austria, and like from another country. And, we go on this little boat. It was just so weird because we came completely unprepared for this.
Were they all like jacked and like
No, but they were definitely experienced and we were not.
okay.
Like I personally had never been snorkeling before in my life, and I think Rob had before, but not much. I mean, we're in Ohio. There are no oceans, and we definitely are not going to snorkel in the Ohio River. That place is nasty. So
Yes, I can vouch for that. I lost my hearing swimming in the Ohio River, but that's another story. But what made you guys decide to go snorkeling in the first place?
it was to go see the whale sharks.
Yeah, see, that was your first mistake.
That was the first mistake. But I did get to see them and they were beautiful, but I was in no condition to see them by that point because we get out there, the waters are really rough. And I kid you not. I mean, think about rocking in a boat as hard as you possibly can, just side to side to side, like 45-degree angles from the water, kind of side to side, right? And I'm doing good. I'm doing okay. Poor Rob, he's starting to get seasick and he could not hang and I was like, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm doing good, I still haven't gotten sick, I'm doing good, I still haven't gotten sick. And then we got to a point where we were calm, but the water was still moving the boat, and then I was like, shit. And then I was hanging over the boat, and this nice Australian family was, or Austrian family was there. They offered us water and they were really kind, but it was like we had already stopped. We were at the place where we were going to see the whale sharks, and I was in shock from just hurling everything out of my body. And Rob wasn't in great shape either. And so they're like, "Get in the water, get in the water." We're like, "Oh God, okay." So we're in the water, and they put the life jacket on us or whatever. We get in the snorkeling stuff, and then I'm still recovering from getting seasick, and he's out there, and the guy helping me, Spanish is his native language, English is a second language, and he probably has a third or a fourth tucked in there somewhere too. And he's like, "Put your face in the water, put your face in the water." And I'm like, I'm good. Because I was just, oh, I was still shaking. Rob was able to do it, but we went out there in the water once, and we were like, "We're good, we're good." We could see them from here, we could sit in the boat, and we could see their tails come out of the water, and they're just magnificent, magnificent creatures. But yeah, that's my one and only snorkeling story. I doubt I'll ever snorkel again.
Yeah, you wouldn't even get me going on this thing. Like sharks, yeah. Like the way to see a shark is in an aquarium.
Yeah,
Like
agreed.
although apparently they can't really sharks always die in aquariums, I think. Like and they don't know why. Like they
Hmm.
can't be kept captive. So you can't even see them in an aquarium. So I take that back. The reason I asked if everybody was jacked is because like these people, I mean, we're not talking Margot Robbie pretty, but
They were fit.
yeah.
They hit the gym, definitely.
And I don't know if everybody in Australia is like that or not, but everybody in movies from Australia is. If you're watching
Yeah,
like Fury Road or something, yeah.
I need to hear from somebody from Australia. I need somebody to write in and let us know, like, is Australia just as bad as Hollywood, where you get picture perfect people in your movies all the time, or do we get all shapes and sizes in your films? I just want to know.
Okay. So this boat is capsized, and right when it's capsized, there's this moment where they're all silent, and then the music starts playing, and that's
Yeah,
when you know they're fucked. Like
right.
it's like, okay, they're playing the music.
Something's going to happen. Yep.
Yeah. One of them dives under to get. Apparently, there's like a radio beacon that they can alert people to their location. Plus, they need water and supplies. So one of the guys goes down, and while he's underneath the boat, they start banging on the hull and be like, "Come up, come up, come up!" And he finally comes up, and he's like, "What's the deal?" And they're like, "There's something big. We think it might be a shark." And he's like, "Well, we still need this stuff." So he goes down, he gets the stuff, comes back, and it turns out that they have like one bottle of water that they can split. And they have this radio beacon, but it only works if a plane flies overhead.
Right. It's an EPIRB. EPIRB.
I don't know what EPIRB stands for, but the herb part is radio beacon. They're pretty much screwed. So Luke decides that they're like drifting out to sea. The current is taking him further away. And they just left not that long ago land. So he's like, we should swim that direction. And he did this thing with his watch, which I probably learned in Boy Scouts, but I completely forgot about. And it's actually kind of brilliant, which is if you point one of the hands of a analog watch toward the sun,
Mm-hmm.
the other hand points toward north.
Interesting.
And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Assuming that's true, and maybe it's only true if you're in the southern hemisphere like they were. But anyway, he wants to swim because he's like, look, the boat's just going to drift further and further out to sea, and it's slowly sinking. Like, it's taking us away from land. We should go now and head back toward land.
Mm-hmm. 10 miles away, though. 10 miles away, he wanted these people to swim.
Yeah. Warren refuses. He says he knows what swims in these waters, and he's not going to do it.
He decides to stay with the sinking boat, with the EPIRB, which the EPIRB stands for Emergency Position Indicating Radio Beacon.
Susie, at first, doesn't want to go and is going to stay with Warren, but at the last minute changes her mind. So all of them except Warren leave the boat. Only Warren stays on the boat. Susie, Matt, and Kate.
Who, let's face it, Kate is the it girl. And Kate actually almost stayed on the boat, but then at the last minute decided to go with them because Matt's her brother and Susie is her sister in law. So she decides to go ahead and go with them. And also, one thing we haven't mentioned yet is there's a little history between Luke and Katie. Apparently, they sailed the Mediterranean together and had a romantic history.
The four of them swim off with like a couple of floating
Like boogie boards that are broken in half, basically.
yeah, they break the boogie boards in half so that each one has one. They estimate that the island is 12 miles away and they're going to swim 12 miles. So this is the other reason why you won't get me on these like ship things, because if something goes wrong, like I can't swim 12 miles.
No.
I can barely do like 3 laps in a swimming pool before I'm like dead, you know? It's like
Let's also keep in mind that there was a whole dialogue between all of them about swimming, 10 miles or so to Turtle Island. Susie herself said she wasn't that great of a swimmer. And then she decided to go. Well, her husband decided to go, and then she decided to go ahead and go with him. And he kind of convinced her, which really?
I knew a guy who was with a bunch of friends and they were going to swim out to a sandbar in the Outer Banks. He was very athletic.
Mm hmm.
He was a professional dancer.
Oh, wow.
So he was super athletic, but he was not a great swimmer. And he told them, I don't think I can do this, and it was like 3 miles or something. I don't know what it was, a few miles out. And they talked him into it or whatever. They made it to the sandbar, and then on the way back, he's the only one that never made it back.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So if somebody says they can't swim, great. Just listen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
So there is a lot of things in this. Like, we had the guy on the boat, Warren, who's like, I know what swims in these waters. I'm not going out there,
Right.
But I don't know. Luke was also very convincing. Like, I think I would have gone along with him too, because it's like, look, this thing is sinking and it's getting further and further away from land. And people die all the time from like being lost at sea. So I think I'd probably risk the swimming too, I think.
Yeah, like give it at least give it your best effort to survive. But ten miles or whatever, that's that's a lot. I couldn't even and I'm a pretty good swimmer, but I don't think I would want to try to swim 10 miles.
They see this shark. I don't know if it's a tiger shark. I think at one point they called it a tiger shark, but also earlier in the movie they mentioned the white pointer, which I wonder if a white pointer is another name for a great white.
I don't know.
Anyway, it's a big ass shark. It's either a tiger shark or a great white. And they see it a bunch of times. They eventually see like a turtle shell floating and they go up to it and its head's been bitten off. And
Is that what that was? Because when we saw it, Rob watched it with me. Rob was like, maybe it's a dead turtle rotting out of its shell. And I was like, oh, that's what it is. Because I had no idea. At first, I thought it was like the head of a shark or some weird sea creature. I didn't realize it was a beheaded turtle.
yeah, that's what it was. During this, the sharks keep getting closer and closer and brushing against them. And at one point, Kate loses her boogie board and Matt swims off to get it. He is predictably attacked by the shark and he says his legs are gone. We have no idea how much of him is actually gone because it's below the water.
Right. And they didn't show that in the film, which I'm sure went along very well with the budget.
Yeah.
But that's also when you learn, like, never go for the boogie board. If it floats away, just let it go. Never go for the boogie board. Bad idea.
he's getting all bloody and stuff like that, and there's blood everywhere. And I think he's like the smart one. He's like telling them, no, don't come here. Like, go the other way, but they all swim out to him to see if they can save him, which of course they can't. And he ends up
Right.
dying.
It's like, what are you going to do? Put a tourniquet on him in the middle of the water? He's done. Yeah, yeah, yeah. His dying breath was saying, "Just go." Poor man.
Eventually, night falls. And I gotta say, the ocean at night is scary even without sharks. Like, the ocean at night is just a scary place.
I love it.
Yeah, from land.
I wouldn't want to be out on a boat out in it, but I love being on the beach at night and looking out at the water.
Yeah, that's totally different.
Yeah.
Being on the water or in the water at night, that's just creepy.
Mhm.
Of course, the sharks come back and they manage to make it through the night, and then they find part of the reef where they can like climb up and rest. And off in the distance is a tiny island or bigger piece of reef or something that they could get to, and they decide to go to it, but it seems to be further and further away. And then they're scared by a dolphin that comes by.
Right. Because they were already traumatized by a shark and all they could see was a fin. So of course their first thought was, "Oh crap, this is a shark."
And I gotta say that dolphins are pretty much dicks. Don't believe all the like flipper propaganda and stuff like that. Like, they're not gonna eat you like a shark, but they might rape you.
Yeah, they might try to, yeah.
And they might like drag you under and like, or just, ram you a bunch with because they're just dicks. Dolphins are dicks. Okay. You heard it here first. Look it up online if you don't believe me.
You know what else I looked up online?
What's that?
You were right. A pointer shark is another term used for a great white.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I think it is a pointer shark, aka a great white. They start to swim for the rocks, and then
The shark comes back. The shark comes back and starts to taunt them again. The sharks were swimming around, and I noticed that one thing Luke would do, because he was the only one who had the goggles. When the sharks were close by, he would get in the water and just like stare directly at the sharks. And for the most part, it kept them away. But this one time when he did it, he came up and looked around and he saw Katie, but he didn't see Susie. And he's like, "Where's Susie?" And there she is off in the distance being attacked by a shark.
it's a lot of it's from Luke's point of view, and I don't know if he was staring at the sharks to keep them away. I don't think that mattered. I think he was just like going underwater so he could see where they were.
Mm-hmm.
Susie gets shark attacked, and of course they swim directly back to her in the pool of blood and stuff like that. And I'm like,
Again.
that yeah. So here's a lesson. I know you want to try to save someone who's like being attacked by a shark. Don't do it.
You can't save them.
You can't save them, and all you're doing is you're swimming into the blood and more likely to get attacked yourself. This movie didn't have it. It was mostly one shark, but blood in the water usually causes a shark feeding frenzy, and a bunch more sharks show up. So you want to be as far away from the blood in the water. Speaking of blood in the water, Kate cut her foot on the smaller reef. So Luke,
He pulled out some weird bandage. It wasn't even a bandage. It looked like a scarf that he wrapped around her foot. It wouldn't have even masked the blood in the first place. So she's basically a swimming target at this point.
yeah, it was some kind of cloth. At least she wasn't bleeding as bad, I guess. In the last 10 minutes, things go bonkers. Like there's like lots of shark attacking happening, and they make it to the bigger rock formation, but it's got like sheer cliff off in the water, so the shark can get right up to the edge, and like it's slippery rocks, and like Kate's trying to get up it, and he's pushing her up it, and then like he manages to get her up it, and then like asks her to pull him up, and is like reaching out, and the shark gets him.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the end, she just like starts hysterically crying, and Probably should have thrown in a spoiler alert here somewhere to the ending, but basically she's just like crying on the rocks, and it ends that way. And the epilogue, we find out that she was rescued by a fishing boat the next day.
And rushed to the hospital. And you don't get to see that scene.
And Warren and the vessel were never recovered.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
so
after they all swam away from him, actually the first shark scene you see is him standing on top of the boat that was capsized, and he sees a shark swimming around, and that's all you see of him. And then the only thing you hear about him is at the end when they say when they have the captions like, this is what happened to Katie, and then and then this is what happened to Warren, and that was it. So one can assume that he was eventually attacked by a shark because the boat inevitably sunk into the water.
yep. So here I'll now read the real story that was based on. This is from upi.com.
Okay.
And I don't know, it seems to scrape a whole bunch of other websites for stuff. So I have no idea where this originally ran, but I'm guessing it was in the Townsville paper. This is from July 27th, 1983. Shark kills 2 people in Coral Sea. Townsville, Australia. A 15-foot shark mauled and killed 2 crew members of a capsized shrimp boat in the Coral Sea as one as she clutched the hand of the vessel's horrified skipper. Ray Boundy, 28, skipper of the New Venture, told his tale of maritime terror Tuesday, a few hours after being rescued from Loader's Reef, 45 miles northeast of Townsville.
Wow.
He had been in the Coral Sea off Australia's northeast coast for 36 hours. So the same place they filmed this. Boundy said from his hospital bed that deckhand Dennis Patrick Murphy, 24, of Brisbane, and his cook Linda Ann Horton, 21, of Townsville, were attacked by a shark he estimated at 15 feet long as they clung to the capsized vessel. Boundy said his boat capsized Sunday night in rough seas 60 miles east of Townsville. The decky, Murphy, was on deck and jumped straight into the water, but Lindy and I were caught in the wheelhouse. We all ended up sitting on top of the upturned hull, wondering what we were going to do, Boundy said. They clung to the wreckage, which included a surfboard, a life ring, and pieces of styrofoam from shrimp boxes as the trawler sank. Boundy said the shark approached Monday night. Quote, we weren't taking much notice of him, thinking that if we didn't antagonize him, he might leave us alone. Boundy said, he took a bite at my leg under the surfboard, so I kicked him with my other foot and he let go, Boundy said. About 10 minutes later, the shark struck. He got my leg. The bastard's got my leg, Boundy quoted Murphy as screaming. You're joking, I said, but then I could see the blood coming to the surface through the water. I didn't know what to do. We'd been hanging together so well for so long, pushed ourselves so hard. I just didn't know how to deal with it because we had no dinghy. We had nothing to use as a tourniquet. Even if we stopped the bleeding, the shark was still going to come back, and I just don't know what to do. The shark came back, and I said to Smurf, which is his name for Murphy, what do you want to do? And he said, you bolt, gather in all the stuff, leave me. And he swam off about 4 or 5 paces, Boundy said in an emotion-choked voice. Everything seemed to be going all right for a couple of hours. I got Lindy to get her spirits back up, and we seemed to be traveling along all right, and I knew we'd get to the reef sometime in the morning, Boundy said. About 4 a.m., the shark struck again. Lindy was sitting in the sling of the life buoy when I saw him come along again. I was pretty sure he was the same shark this time. He came along as slow as you like beside me, then slewed around and grabbed Lindy around the arms and chest, Boundy said. I was still holding her by the hand as he shook her about 3 or 4 times. She only let out one little squeal as soon as it hit, and I knew almost instantly she was dead.
Mm.
The next day, from another paper, and I'm not going to read this article, but I will say the last paragraph of it said, Boundy told reporters that from his experience, the shark, probably a tiger shark, must have attacked humans before because of its predatory actions on his crew throughout the ordeal.
Wow.
Apparently, Murph tried to save him by like swimming away, and luring the shark away, but it only saved him for a little while. Anyway,
Man.
that's the true story. And this is why I will not go snorkeling to see the beauty of sharks. You know what? A
Yeah.
supernova is beautiful too, but I don't want to be anywhere near a supernova. There's just certain things. It's like I'll watch from a distance.
Yep, I think some things are meant to be enjoyed from a distance, and that's definitely one of them. One thing I wanted to bring up about the movie was in the beginning, when they on their first day, where if you remember, they went to that like little island and they took the lifeboat, but it was an inflatable lifeboat, and then when they were on the way back, it got a hole in it. So that's why they, as we were telling the story, that's why nobody got on a lifeboat because it was already destroyed before all of the chaos happened.
Yes. I think that about wraps it up for this one. I definitely give this one a thumbs up. There aren't a lot of shark movies that are great. This
Hmm.
one's pretty good.
Yeah, this one's pretty good. Watching it with Rob, one thing that he mentioned, and I kind of agree with, it actually highlighted something for me. Us Americans, we're used to tying everything up, in a nice, pretty package with a neat little bow. And one thing Rob mentioned is like, they couldn't have shown the scene where she was rescued and given us some closure. And I think that would have been nice if they would have done that, but, I feel like that's also kind of a very American thing to do. So I kinda see why and they wouldn't do that in an Australian film to kinda leave you with the heaviness of the situation. But all in all, it was a really good film. I kind of walked into it expecting it to be a lot of bad acting, and I was pleasantly surprised that the story went so well. I think toward the end, toward the end, it was just like one shock after another, and it's like even Luke at one point went for the boogie board, and I was like, "No, don't do it," because I thought that was what was going to do him in, But of course, it didn't because you can't have two characters die the same way. So he was able to retrieve it and come back, but still, it was just like by the end of it, I was like, "Thank God it's over," because I was it was stressing me out.
Yeah.
It was literally stressing me out. So if a movie affects me that much and I'm sitting there like with clenched fists and hoping, like one character or another, doesn't die or get too hurt or anything, that's a good movie to me. It
Yeah.
affected me. So it's a good
Yeah.
movie to me. I'm here for it. Thumbs up.
Yeah. Thumbs up. I didn't know how good it was going to be because like early on, like a lot of these films, they're just building tension. So you don't know if it's just going to all be them just hanging out in the water and nothing good ever happens, or if they're really going to get around to the shark attacks. And they really got around to the shark attacks. So
Yeah, they did. The movie went at a pace that was better than expected until the end when I was just ready for it to be done because I was tired of being stressed.
okay.
But that was a point. So,
Yeah. So like and subscribe from whatever services you have. This is our year of telling two people. So if you like this show, invite two more people to listen to it. It's the summertime. A lot of people are going on vacation, which means long drives or whatever. Probably not plane rides the way the planes have been going these days. So,
oh
um,
gosh.
so yeah. So, download the podcast and force your family to listen to it on the drive.
That's right. Force your family to listen to good old fashioned fun.
Yeah. Until next time, this is Eric
And this is Rosie.
signing off.
Oh, you fired.